welcome back to the Game of Murder, where we decide if you're guilty or not. Today we have a special guest. His mom recently passed away, and he's on trial for murder. Let's welcome Merceau. All right, Merceau, you've been through a lot, so let's get an introduction.
Hi, I'm Merceau.
Okay. All right, so we know you to be super honest and indifferent to the point where people think you aren't normal. Merceau, first things first, your mother passed away very recently, and your fiance Marie wanted to know how long ago, and what did you say to her?
I said yesterday, but she kept looking at me kind of weird.
Oh, why was she looking at you weird?
I don't know.
Like, you sound super detached about this. Do you care about your mother's death, or like, how did it affect you?
I mean, life goes on. It is what it is.
Okay. All right, moving on. You're kind of immoral. You're neither good or bad. Did this all start when you met Raymond? And who is Raymond to you exactly?
He's just my neighbor. I only know him because he invited me over for dinner.
So we've all heard. And we also know that this all started with a letter. So we all want to know why you wrote the letter for Raymond. And according to a police report, Raymond had beaten her till she bled. He'd never beaten her before. She'd scream a little and it'd always end the same way. So he beat his mistress, yet you still wrote the letter, and yet you're still friends with him. And why did you write it, and what did the letter entail?
Raymond just wanted to scare her, so I just did it as it came to me. But I didn't do it to please Raymond because I didn't have any reason not to please him.
Okay. I mean, that's very cold, like, knowing that he did beat his wife. His mistress. Same thing. Social norms are meant to be followed. Dr. Saul McLeod says, "We do not expect people to behave randomly, but we expect them to behave in certain ways in particular situations. Given that, do you think you are guilty?"
No. It's not that I don't care about people. I like nature, like the beach. It took place at Masson's beach house, and as we were going up, we noticed that there were some Arabs watching us and following us, and we noticed that one of them was Raymond's mistress brother. And when we got there, we all decided to go for a walk. I mean, yeah, we went back to the beach, and then the Arabs were there, and they cut him with a knife in the arm and in the mouth. So then we had to take him back to the house, and then we took him to the hospital. And then when Raymond came back, we went back to the beach, and he had a gun this time.
Oh, so you are on trial because you shot. And so how did you end up with a gun, and why did you shoot?
The Arabs were laying down on the beach, and Raymond was trying to kill them, and I didn't want him to shoot anyone. So I talked him out of it, and he handed me the gun. And then I walked Raymond back up to the beach house, and then came back to the beach by myself. I didn't want Raymond to shoot, so I convinced him to hand me the gun, and I walked him back to the beach house. And then I didn't want to deal with my fiance or Masson's wife because I knew they were going to ask a bunch of questions. So I went back down to the beach.
All right, so I heard it was a really hot summer day. So why did you was there any other reason you went back down to the beach except for?
I just wanted to go somewhere I knew I'd be somewhere I knew I would enjoy. But it was really hot and my eyes were hurting. So I went down to the spring to go take a shower.
What happened when you got to the spring?
I was confronted by Raymond's mistress brother, and he pulled a knife out.
And so when he pulled the knife out, did you act in self-defense, or what happened?
Well, the knife reflected off the sun into my eyes, and I couldn't see, so I just started shooting.
I see. So there you have it, folks, and here's how everything went down exactly, and information from the police. And now it's time for the Game of Murder, where we decide if Merceau is guilty or not. So let's welcome all of our contestants. Hi guys, welcome back to the Game of Murder, and we have a couple of contestants on the line right now, and so we are ready to hear some opinions. So the first contestant we have is Jordan. Hi, Jordan. Do you think Marceau is guilty or not?
Thank you for having me on the show. Not only is Marceau innocent, but he's also the only authentic person in his world. His authenticity is shown in his intimate contact with existence. The way he feels and observes his surrounding is rather odd but beautiful. His intimacy with something other than a human being is almost poetic because it is a social norm to connect with others to survive. But he survives by being connected to the world around him and enjoying things that people tend to put aside. With the argument of the shooting, it was also brought up that Marceau shot several times even though the Arab was motionless. But Marceau described that the Arab man in question revealed a knife that reflected the sun, blinding Marceau and causing him to have to shoot blindly. He's claimed that the scorching blade slashed at his eyes and stabbed them. Being in this stressful and dangerous situation while not being able to see is reason enough for him to have felt the need to shoot several times, making sure that he was safe from harm. Some research that I found was empathy versus apathy.
Thank you so much, Jordan, for your insight. So I have a question for you. What is empathy and what is apathy?
Good question. The definition of empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, while the definition of apathy is a lack of interest, enthusiasm, or the concern of others. These are two very opposite concepts and are often put to the extreme ends. The way that Marceau is described is a concept called biophilia, meaning someone who is more connected to nature and has a higher chance of survival and is more peaceful. According to psychology, nature is damaged by humans, and a lot of natural resources coming from nature are taken for granted, and these services provided by nature are also taken for granted. However, humans cannot live without these services, but nature can probably survive without humans. A concept that has been widely held throughout society is anthropocentrism, meaning a human-centered worldview that all other beings are means to humans' ends.
Thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on the show today. It was really great to have your insight. We do have another caller on the line, and her name is Emma. Hi, Emma.
Hey, glad to be on the show. Marceau is guilty because he is a bystander to Raymond hitting his girlfriend when he could have helped the woman. Marie and Marceau heard thuds and the woman screaming in a terrifying way. Marie and him went to see what was happening, and the woman was still shrieking when Raymond was hitting her. Marie said it was terrible, and Marceau didn't say anything. Marie and Marceau went to go find a policeman, but he told her he didn't like cops. Also, when his mother died, he showed no emotion and no experience of grief. In fact, he didn't care at all. He lives life without conscience and is incapable of sympathy or empathy, showing that Marceau has no acknowledgement to what's right or wrong. After these actions, which led him to murdering a man, he is not a man to be trusted in society and should be found guilty.
Hi, Emma. Thanks for being here. I just have a quick question for you. Why do you think Marceau didn't care about his mother's death?
Great question, and I believe that Marceau doesn't care about his mother's death because, first of all, he smoked a cigarette at her funeral, and he was annoyed the whole time and doesn't talk about his mom ever, and he just says that nothing matters and her life and her death didn't really mean anything to him, and he had no care for her.
Thank you, Emma, so much for coming on the show and giving us your opinion. We really appreciate it. We just have one more call to take care of. Her name is Chelsea Detter, and she's phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. According to Dr. Jones from the University of California, Marceau is not guilty. He claims he's a man in society that is the same as everyone else. But after seeing how he feels after his mother's death and killing the Arab, he is in fact innocent. Kama said, "I would rather not have upset him, but I couldn't see any reason to change my life. Looking back on it, I wasn't unhappy. When I was a student, I had lots of ambitions like that, but when I had to give up on my studies, I learned very quickly that none of it really mattered. This shows that he has no care with anything in his life. I feel that he is not guilty because he was acting in self-defense, like anyone would do. According to the law as well, you're allowed to come to threat with the same amount of power as the other person. As the Arab came to him with a knife with the intent to murder, Marceau came at him with a gun and shot him."
Hi, Chelsea. Thank you so much for taking our call and being on the show today. I just have a quick question for you. I'd like to ask you, how are you supposed to react to someone who is attempting to take your life?
Personally, if someone was coming at me with a weapon, I would get my weapon and kill them before they could kill me.
Thank you so much for answering that question, Chelsea. I do have another one because I just thought of it. But do you think Marceau shooting 4 times was him acting in self-defense, and was it right?
Well, when Marceau shoots the Arab 4 times, it is beneficial. He says the sweat washes into his eyes, the flash of light from the Arab's knife, and the symbols of pain clashing in his head. When he shoots the Arab dead, this is because he is acting in self-defense, and all of this stuff was bothering him and blinding him, so he couldn't really see if he was dead. I have some friends who would like to state their opinion.
He is not guilty.